On today's episode, we have the lovely Rebecca Minkoff. And if you're not familiar with her career, she's a brand which is named after her. She started with handbags, but she's now expanded to all kinds of products. Those are sold in like Nordstrom, Saks, Bloomingdale's, and her company has done hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. She recently sold the business a few years ago, was also recently on Real Housewives of New York. She's written a book called Fearless, The New Rules for Unlocking Creativity, Courage, and Success. Rebecca, welcome to Bossy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I'm so glad we're in outer space today.
Yeah, we're totally in space. If you're listening to this and not watching, Rebecca's referring to the fact that I am in a whole space set right now. And today I have a fun game that I want to play with you, Rebecca. I call it 21 Questions for a Boss Bitch.
Okay.
And so I've got all kinds of questions for you, ranging from like questions about business, questions about life as a boss woman, questions about your book. And I'll play with you. So I'll answer the questions too. We'll go back and forth. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. All right. First question. What is your go-to outfit that makes you feel like you own the room?
Ooh. Anything leather. I
Ah,
mean, clearly my brand is rooted in leather, but I've been wearing a lot of leather skirts, leather pants. And then once you're wearing leather, like the rest is easy. It can just be a casual sweater or a fun crop t-shirt or a great boot. But I feel like I definitely like to ground my wardrobe in something leather.
I love that because I feel like it's so easy to be like leather is not corporate and like what you're supposed to wear with like work and to feel like you own the room. I feel like my answer is a bodysuit, like or like a jumpsuit, like a full like jumpsuit situation.
Yeah.
And if I want a blazer on top of it, cool. But I feel like those are both
Yeah.
answers that people are like, oh, that's not what you're supposed to wear to work or as a boss woman in general.
Yeah, I think we need to get rid of the idea that it's a suit. I mean, suiting is coming back,
Yeah.
but it's coming back in a very cool way. It's not just like you're
Yeah.
going
Trying
straight.
to be a guy in your corporate suit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Question two. You were recently on Real Housewives of New York. What is the biggest way that they like twisted your words on that show? Because we know that happens.
Oh, that happened to me? I'm shocked. I thought they
It
portrayed
happens.
me as the true woman that I am. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's see. If I can like summarize the edit, either I didn't talk or I said things like, "Does this headband make my nose look big?" Like they literally focused on the random things coming out of my mouth, which I was fine with
Yeah.
if you showed the other side of me. But if you're gonna make me look like I don't talk and then all the random stuff that I say, like, not here for that.
Got it. Okay. They just sort of edited around and that's how it showed up when you saw
Yep.
the final product.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Question number three. What is the hardest part about dating as a boss bitch?
I haven't dated in a long time, but I will say this for all
Yeah.
my single friends. It feels to them that it is impossible to find a guy who wants to have a long term relationship and settle down and have kids. I'm doing
Mm.
this podcast series, this special 4 episode series with Candace Bushnell from Sex and the City. And I was like, where are they? She was like, they're not made anymore. And I'm like, so should all women lose hope?
Yeah.
Like, what do we do with that?
Were there things that were hard for you when you were dating?
I think that thank God social media didn't exist when I was dating, but it was hard to find a guy who wanted the same things and it felt like there were rules like I can't reach out to him, he has to reach out to me. Like can't we just get on
Yeah.
the same page? Like just because I want to know where you stand, it doesn't mean I want to marry you tomorrow. But I'd like to know if you could see this going somewhere. Like I don't want to waste my time if you can't. Doesn't mean you have to
Yeah.
commit
You're like, what's
today.
so wrong? What's so wrong with being intentional, is what you're saying.
Yeah, like why does that mean desperate or why does that mean like knock me up tomorrow because my eggs are going to expire?
Yeah. But also, am I wasting my time here or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like one of the things that's hard is I'm like newly single and I think that like people the like whole find someone who's not intimidated by you. I think is hard to find as well. I think I now have like there's a couple groups of girlfriends that I have where like the kinds of people that are around them, I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Right? And but I think that if I look at like the big market of men or women, I date both, like I think it's just like hard to find someone who's not like freaked out by like you being fully yourself out in the world. So that's one for me.
Yeah, no, you have to definitely find that person because let me tell you, it can lead to problems later on. Thank God my
Girl.
husband, like is just like, yes, keep going, you got
Yeah.
it, instead of like,
Yeah.
I wanted that or whatever it is. But that I've seen that happen with couples and it's hard.
Yeah, because it's really like them feeling small, like them shrinking themselves in your presence, and like we don't have time for that.
No, no.
Okay, all right. What do you think is the best part? Like, this is the other side of it, and you can either be like dating or being married as a boss bitch. Best part about being married as a boss bitch.
I think that for us, like outside of the love for each other, we're almost as parents do this dance, and it's sort of like we almost now at this point, because it's been so long, know what the other one is handling or doing, or what kid's birthday they're sorting out, or what kids' trips they're handling, or the child's care. Like we both have our lanes, and we're both doing it, and it's very rare that I'm like, babe, you didn't do this. It's almost like we now know our lanes and where we excel in certain shared duties. And that's just really nice. Like, I have recently, unfortunately, a bunch of friends that have gotten divorced. And I'm like, oh my God, that to restart that with someone and get
Yeah,
that figured out is not
it takes
something that,
years.
yeah.
Does that help you then be able to be like focused at work or focused on other things because you guys know exactly what's going to happen? How does that impact what you're doing, other things you're doing?
That allows me to focus. And then I will say, like, I have a lot of friends that have traditional relationships where, the man is the provider. And so the wife is like, honey, do you mind if I go out tonight? You have to watch the kids. And if I had a husband that was like that, like I would I
That
would
would be like,
be,
I'm not babysitting, which is like, it's not babysitting if it's your children.
yes. My husband likes to say like the bar for men is so low that like if he does anything above like what should be normal, he's looked at like a hero. Like
Yeah,
you watch the baby on the airplane, I bow down to you. But
right.
it does allow me a freedom that I feel like some of my other friends don't have because their spouses aren't willing to commit to also rearing the children. It does
So
free
would you
you up.
say that you guys have a traditional relationship, like traditional gender roles, or like not necessarily?
We I don't know. I don't know that it's traditional because what I still see is a lot of old fashioned. In and so we both work and we both do all the roles. I think
Yeah.
I travel more than he does. So he's definitely the one that is, let's say when I'm traveling, the one that's at night and in the mornings getting the kids ready, dinner off to school, whereas other women I know in my position have a babysitter doing it because their husbands won't.
I'm side eyeing that whole situation. Okay, got it. It's a thing. No, no, no. This is real, though. This is real.
Yep.
So, if you think about your business and like the highest revenue year that you had, give me like a range of like how much money that highest revenue year was in your business.
At our height, we did 115 million, but we were losing money. So it didn't matter.
Listen, this is so funny. I was going to tell you my answer. My answer was 3 million, but it certainly was not my most profitable year by
Exactly.
far. And there were years I made way less, but like top line is not bottom line.
Correct.
It's like the takeaway here. And I also think there's like, were there new problems you had to encounter when you hit that spike?
Oh my God. Yeah. Where do I start?
Yeah.
A bloated amount of employees. At that point, I think we had over 100, and I stopped remembering everyone's names. And so the ability to form connections and culture was incredibly hard.
Yeah.
And then problems were magnified because you're doing so much revenue and then you're not making money. And so there's a pressure to like get profitable, but the places you're selling make it impossible too. And you're just like, okay,
Right.
do I take my revenue down? And then future buyers might think that it was due to us not being successful. You know, there's like this big dick contest.
Yeah. I also feel like I have a big dick contest with myself when it comes to my highest revenue year. Like I in my subconscious brain, like I think that's the marker of success. So I'm like chasing that, even though like if you actually look at what happened that year or those years, like it wasn't the most profitable, but I still think in my head that like that's where I gotta get to. So I'm like big dick contesting myself, which is not that helpful, but I definitely do it if I'm being honest.
I think any entrepreneur does that. You're always setting
Yeah.
these mirage goals and you get them and you're like, okay, more, okay, more. And I think that's what keeps us driven. But I
Yeah.
also think like at some point we had to have a reality check and we artificially took our sales down to about 70 because that was where we could attain profitability.
Yeah. Yeah. And still have like things not feel crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 6. How many years did it take for you to start paying yourself after you launched your business?
Well, I paid myself, let's say in the early years, whatever was left, and there wasn't much. So there was a credit card that I relied on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
then when we actually started seeing the revenue start to grow with the bags, my brother, who was my co-founder, was like, "What are your monthly, costs?" And I was very naive, and I literally to the dime was like, "Well, my rent is this and my food is this." And that was
Yeah.
$23,000 a year, and that was my salary for many years.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like a nuance of that question, which is like paying yourself how much, right? To like thrive or to like just pay your bills,
Just pay
right?
your bills. I remember being like, well, I can never take a cab and I can't eat out and I can't cut my hair. There was definitely things I
Yeah.
didn't consider.
Yeah. How many years in was it that shifted where you were like, okay, I have more comfort now?
I think we did a private equity sale of the business in 2012. And I
Yeah.
think that was the year that I then made, it was either 100 or 150,000, which for a business that's 7 years old is not a lot of money that I was paying myself. And prior to that,
Yeah.
my brother didn't even take a salary. He just was like, "No, let's get you set up." And so at the time, while that felt like a lot of money in New York City, just imagine 50% of that
Right.
goes away. And then we had a
Right.
kid. So it's not a lot of money at the end of the day.
Yeah. And like took 7 years to get to that place. I think a lot of people think it like happens way faster than it really does in reality.
Oh
Like I
yeah, there was a lot of
definitely
faking it.
yeah, I get that. I think so it was my second company, second year of my second company that I was like, okay, I'm like paying all of my bills now and like I feel really like solid and secure. I wouldn't say really solid and secure, but like I can pay the bills. I definitely had to
Mhm.
watch it though. Okay, question number 7. What is one thing that you've had to sacrifice this month because you were busy in boss mode?
Time with my kids. My book tour and my book launch has been intense, and I had to travel for 5 days straight, which I try and never leave them for more than 2 or 3 days. And I missed my son's birthday because of it, like his actual
Yeah.
birthday, not his birthday party, but like that's shitty, and the feeling does never get better. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, no, but that's real. It's real.
Real.
Okay, question number 8. What's one thing you hate that people assume about ambitious women and it's maybe not the truth?
I think that when we are forthright and opinionated and strong, somehow it is perceived as entitled or bitchy or aggressive.
Yeah.
And or that if we are that way, we don't support other women. Like I've had a number of people being like, you didn't coddle me or whatever. I'm like, guess what? I don't have to coddle you. Like, I'm paying you a paycheck. I'm giving you
Yeah.
money. You better show up and work. And I'm sorry that you had a personal issue and I empathize with you, but I'm paying you. Should I not pay you if you're distracted at work? Like, because
Mm,
like there's a line between being empathetic and demanding excellence. And sometimes if you demand excellence from someone you are giving money to, then you're not
yeah.
understanding and you don't support women. And I hate when people use that against us.
And if you look at like male CEOs, the like Steve Jobs example where they're just like demanding like excellence from their employees, like we think of that as like genius. And then women do it and we get so upset and there's lawsuits and this and that and we're so pissed off at them. And I that's a good one. That's a really good nuanced one. I think one thing I think about is like I think that like people think that just because we make lots of decisions at work means we want to make all the decisions all the time and just want to be like bossy in all areas of our life. And I think that's maybe not true, particularly like in dating or with your partnership. You're like, I would like for you to help me with this too, and not it just be the whole way simple. I'm the one who makes all the calls.
Yeah, no, I don't like that. And I think that your partner probably doesn't like it either. So I'm always like, do you want to decide
No
what
one
we
likes
do
it.
for dinner? Do you want to decide what we do this weekend? Like
Yeah.
I'm fine sharing the load for sure. And I'm also fine in business. I don't want to be the only, I don't know it all. Like I really rely on my team for their decisions.
Yeah. And
Um,
sometimes I have decision fatigue. I'm like, I'm at capacity for decisions that I can make today. I have no more brain space for decisions. Like, what do you think?
yes,
Right? And sometimes
for
you need to
sure.
balance that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, question number 9. Imagine that you didn't have to worry about anyone thinking you were cocky. What is your favorite business or personal brag?
That we're one of the only handbag brands in the contemporary space. I think we're one of five that's been around for 20 years that a woman gives permission to put on her arm. I think a woman will pay $20 for a top at Zara or Free People or whatever, fine.
Yeah.
But with a bag, she's like, this is where I'm going to invest my time. And, it's like we're a lot smaller than the brands I'm about to name, but it's Tori, it's Kate, it's Michael, it's Mark, and it's me. And
Yeah.
and I think that that's a real honor to have to be in that ilk, but sadly 1/10 of the size.
Yeah, but you're just like I'm maybe a small giant, but like I'm in here with the big guys, is
Yeah,
what you're saying. With longevity, bitch. It's essentially add that in
that's
there.
right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, good. I like that. That's a good brag. What is one song that you listen to hype yourself up when you're doubting yourself a little bit?
Oh man. Let's go to my Spotify. I have a playlist for that.
Yeah. What's at the top?
Recently, it's so cheesy. I'm such a consumer. Whatever. Chapel
We all
Roan,
are. Oh yeah.
Phenomenon, or whatever. I can't even pronounce it. Phenomenon. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, that's good. And you're just like that one gets you pumped up. I think of my playlist right now. I'll look at mine too. I have a playlist called Miss Thang,
Ooh, I
Thang.
like
Miss
that.
Thang. Yeah. There's this song by Sexy Red. It's called Get It Sexy, and I'm definitely like twerking in my mirror before
I
like I have a
love
hard
it.
meeting to just like pump myself up too.
I
That's
love
on
it.
there.
Sadly, I'll never be
Okay.
able to twerk because my butt is just bones. And so twerking is like my spinal cord going like this.
Yeah, okay, got it. That's too cute. But you're
I'm
like, but
working
I
on it though.
tried.
I'm actively focused on growing my ass this year. That is goal.
Oh, and what do you do, like squats?
A lot of, yeah, with my trainer, we're just focusing on a lot of butt building work. So we'll see if this white Jewish girl can grow a little tush.
Okay, so I'm gonna send you the song so that you can then
I
practice
can
your
begin to
tour.
twerk.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Question number 11. If you had to restart your brand tomorrow with only 10K, zero industry contacts, what's your first move?
Ooh, what a great question. With only 10K. Okay, obviously I would have ChatGPT make me a website. I would have ChatGPT give me a full fucking strategy of how to launch. I would,
Can't do anything without ChatGPT anymore these
I
days,
know, I
like
know.
at all.
I know it's pretty crazy. I would start a community, obviously, of not only on social but email and in person based of people that would are buying into whatever my vision for whatever my brand is, and really over index on in person and build that grassroots love. Like in the beginning, this woman would have like wine and cheese parties, and I'd bring my bags and we'd sell to all her friends. And so, how do you sort of get the Tupperware party idea going again?
But community
Yeah,
and having people invite their friends so that you can grow if you don't have a bunch of contacts.
yeah.
Question number 12. What is a time someone told you no in your career and it actually turned out to be a blessing?
When I went to launch my podcast, I we were doing it as a like, okay, for a brand and part of my role. So I was like, great, we'll have my copywriter write the questions. We'll have this person prepare all the stuff. And I don't know if my brother was mad at me or knew better. He's like, no, we're not going to give you any support.
Okay, you're just doing it on your own.
Do it
Because
on
your
your
brother,
own.
is he CEO?
He was the CEO. He's now,
Okay,
since we sold the company, he's no longer
yeah.
the active in the company. And I really was pissed. I was like, we have a team of people who can fucking do this for me, and I just have to show up and read from the list of questions.
Yeah.
And he was right. He wasn't right in how he did it, but he was right in that it needed to be a personal and curiosity from my heart
Mm,
about the
yeah.
person I'm interviewing and not some like other person's research or angle. And so
Yeah.
I think that, and then me doing it on my own, I learned a lot. Like, I think when we first launched the podcast, I thought because I had a big podcast network, they knew what to do. They assumed that because I had 800,000 followers, that somehow magically that would equate to 30,000 downloads after the first episode. And I
Yeah.
just was like, well, okay, this is how it's done. And, 3,000 downloads after the first episode, big shocker. Like, oh, you got to figure this out. And I like trying to figure this shit out. So,
Yeah. I think like as a boss woman too, you're a figure outer And so you actually got more space to play with that. Okay, I like that. I'm going to combine questions 13 and 14 together because they're kind of two different sides. So one
Okay.
is, if you had to launch a career in a totally different industry, what would it definitely not be? And then the other side is, what would it be?
What would it not be?
Like, for example, mine's a restaurant. Like, that's a really hard business. I don't know that I'm going to launch a restaurant. And like, I don't have the passion for it. You really need passion because it's a hard business.
Okay. Part of me really wants to have like an Airbnb, like farm to table, whatever.
Cute.
But I don't want to deal with them being like, can you get me another towel? Or like, why isn't my coffee hot? Like, I don't want to deal with you. I just want to have the Airbnb and then someone else to deal with the problems.
I mean, there are Airbnb property management companies. So, but
I
it's
don't mean
still,
an Airbnb. I mean like a bed and breakfast. Sorry. A bed and
yeah, yeah,
breakfast.
yeah. I got you. I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
Even if you have someone to manage it, though, like people think like, oh, I'm just gonna like outsource everything, and it's like something still gets escalated to you, regardless.
Yeah, yeah, I don't want to deal with it. I just want to have like the creation and the design and the experience of it all, but then someone to deal with all the problems, which isn't real.
Yeah, this is where the insight of like there's a difference between a hobby and a great business
Yes.
are
Or as my
different.
husband said, like I'd like to have a farm, but I want to be a gentlewoman farmer. Like I don't want to actually deal with any of the problems or like shovel shit.
Yeah, I just want to be cute on the farm.
Yeah, and like reap the benefits of growing my own food, but not actually grow it.
Got it. Okay, and then what's the other side of that? So like, what kind of business, if you were starting all over in a career, would you start?
I would start something in the skincare space or not makeup, but skincare. I would start something in the like leisure space.
Yeah, okay. What's the leisure space? What does that mean?
Well, the idea that I have, I don't want to share because I might start it one day, but it's
Okay,
something that like when you go to the beach, you need this item, and I would start a company around that type of leisure.
got it. And it's like for like the target demo is like a lady who lunches at the beach hanging out.
No, I think the target demo is anyone who goes to the beach and wants to be more comfortable
Ah,
and
okay.
show off their style.
Okay, got it. Okay. Question 15. What is your most controversial take on business or fashion, you can choose, that some people would be mad about if they heard?
I think that women, especially like those in the boss lane, can sometimes be too much the victim. Like, oh, well, it was all males that I pitch you and they declined me because I'm a woman. And it's like
Mm,
we're not actually using our femininity to our advantage if we're only being victims because of our femininity.
okay. What would be the reverse of that, of like using it to your advantage?
That I think that you can be strong, powerful, funny, and beautiful and charming in a room and that doesn't make you stupid. You know,
Yeah.
I would go into rooms with men knowing that if I'm upbeat and I'm happy and flirty, not in a sexual way, but
Yep.
charismatic, that was going to really, really sort of de-ice the room and get them out of their like numbers on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
We do
Yeah.
have the ability to charm and be funny and gregarious that I think we can use. Take it or leave it. I used my pregnancy once too. I said, "You're going to do this to a pregnant woman? How dare you?"
Yeah.
Why
Mm-hmm.
not? It was true. And it made them feel
Yeah.
guilty and they didn't do it?
Yeah, got it. Okay, that's an interesting one. I think mine might be on business. Okay, I think a controversial take people like often don't like to hear. I personally believe if you're launching your first business, you should not target customers that have really low disposable income. Like it's really hard to do that and to launch that business. There's this guy like Alex Hormozy says you should sell to rich people until you have money to sell to poor people. And I think
Hmm.
one time I said something like this on the show and they were like, Tara, you can't say that. We have to like cut that out. So now I'm saying it again, guys. But I do think that this is true that like it's really hard to launch like a really low price point, really low margin, like first business. It's so much grind. And like that's a controversial take that I have that I don't think people want to hear.
I don't think it's controversial. I think like depending on what your product is,
Yeah.
it changes what the answer is. If you're trying to target like a $2
Yeah.
lipstick, great. But
Yeah.
I think it depends on what it is you're giving people.
Yeah. And I think it's maybe not controversial if you have like years in business where you see and understand margins and what that experience is. And maybe if you're outside of that, it feels more controversial.
Yeah.
Okay. I have another question for you. 16. What is one big pivot you wish you had made sooner in your business? And you can't say I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, no, I don't like those questions. One big pivot we would have made earlier. We were approached early on in 2013 from an incredible visionary in the VC space of how he wanted to build the business. And the offer on the table was pretty large, not only for us, but for investing into the business. And we had that like moment at the poker table where we were like, wow, if he's going to give us this now, imagine in a couple years what we can get. And we didn't take the offer.
Aha. Yeah. And sometimes it's the moment.
It was the moment. And it wasn't just because of the money he was offering us. I'm looking at how he was going to structure the business to set it up for innovative growth.
Yeah. And that was the moment for that too. Got it. Okay. And so you missed that essentially.
We ended up doing it, but it was a lot more costly than someone giving you the money to do it.
Got it. Understood. Okay. That's a good one. Okay. Question 17. Your book is called Fearless. What is a fear that you wrote about in your book that like you still struggle with today?
I guess it's a struggle, but also like made peace with it. There was a moment in the book where I share that the bank that we were doing business with was basically like, no more advance capital to you. We are shutting you down. We are calling our loan. Pay now or you're going to shut down.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I share in my book, I'm in Paris. We're like toasting to like a great season of sales. We were there selling to international markets. And
You had no idea this was going to happen.
we knew things were tough and tense, but I didn't think they were going to escalate as quickly as they did.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
sat there and I said, okay, let me just play this out. What happens if they do shut us down? And what do I do for work? And how do I pay my bills? And I really had to take myself down to the worst case scenario. And once I was like there, I was like, okay, that fucking sucks, but I'll be okay, you know? And I think that it's still a fear to this day because you never know what can happen or, in the world. And you're like, okay, what is the worst case scenario? Now I have 4 children to feed.
Yeah.
And am I okay with that? And I am. It would
Yeah.
suck, but I'll be okay.
That's really good. This is something I'm like working on for myself right now. Like I call it this concept of feeling held. Like feeling held by the accomplishments that I've had, by the money that I have, because there's always more that you can go do. Or like if this scenario happens and this falls through, then I won't be successful anymore and it'll all and it's like that's not actually truth. And so working on feeling held, it feels like that fear of like not being held and it all falls out underneath you is the fear and like there's a mindset shift of going through like what's the worst case scenario I'll be okay that happens.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean I'm like, worst case scenario is we go out of business and I have all this money saved and I'm going to be okay. No, it's
Yeah.
worst case scenario. I have to do a job that I'm not in love with, or I have to start a new company that takes a lot longer to build, or whatever it is. It's just like, okay, here we go. Better get smart real
Yeah.
quick and figure it out.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I used to say this to like keep myself balanced because I run a tech company and I used to go like, well, the worst case scenario is like I'll go back to like working at Google. Oh, boo hoo me. Like, yeah, you'll have to have a job, but like you'll live, you'll be okay. Like you'll do good at the job, you'll make some money at the job, and then you'll figure it out next. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just had that moment recently. I was talking to one of the biggest companies within fashion about an acquisition, and he's like, "I can't acquire you, but would you ever want to come work here?" And I was like, "Well, I know where my worst case scenario is I can go work
Yeah,
there."
I put that in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Question 18 is also in your book. So, what's a chapter or section of your book that almost didn't make the cut and you're really glad that it did?
No chapter almost didn't make the cut. It all did
Oh, okay.
because I wrote
Easy.
it and no one edited anything out of it.
Got it. Okay, good. Wait, so did
But
you have, so then maybe you didn't have a bunch of like bossy people telling you, like, take this out, do this different, and you just built your
no.
team well. Yeah.
No, I think they trusted my vision. I think the chapter that I added for the paperback out now is all about money and women talking about money and getting comfortable with that as a subject versus Don't come to dinner and talk about sex. Try it with your friends. Or don't show pictures of your kids. Be like, what am I investing in? How much am I making? How am I going to take my business to the next level? What did you do that made you more money? And like that should be our new dialogue. And so that's kind of what that whole chapter is about.
So it's more like there's a bonus chapter, not like you had to take one out.
Correct. I should have had that in to
Okay.
begin with. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Okay, good. Okay, I have three more questions for you. So, question 19, what is the most expensive mistake you've ever made?
Not investing in a quality control person, which resulted in hundreds of thousands of bags having mine and Kate Spade's hardware in them at the same time.
Oh,
I got a nickname, and that was a very expensive mistake.
you had a nickname. What does that mean? I don't know
Well,
this story.
oh, it's called my nickname. They just took the two, like Benifer.
Yeah,
I got Rebecca Spankoff, which is the hybrid of Kate Spade and Rebecca Minkoff.
got it. Because you had like, were both of your names in the bag?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, got it. Not great. Okay,
No.
I think my most expensive is definitely having like too many people on the team at once. Like
Yes.
thinking
That's
that
a good
like you're
one.
just spending way too much, and then being like, oh, we need to reel this back. And of course, like reeling back team is always so hard to do because it's like real people, but also like the math doesn't math.
Yes.
Yeah. It's fine. Okay, question number 20. What is a power move that you've made in a room full of men?
I think it goes back to our bank when they were like, this was another time because we would have this happen often. Like, we're done with the credit line. We're gonna shut you down. And I like to muster up like my anger and or like freak out energy at very specific times. Like I know when to use it. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's time to unleash. And I just
Okay.
unleashed. And I was like, this has been my dream for 17 years. Like, blah, like you have no idea. Like the families that depend on this business and the women and blah, and I just like went for it. And they were like, who? And they extended our credit line.
That's a really good one because I think like sometimes we think emotion should not be used at all at work, and sometimes like like showing that actually moves the conversation in the right direction, but it has to like shake things up.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I think my favorite power move early on in my career, I would use my like accolades that I'd had to like get people to not like a lot of times early in my career people would just like see this like young black woman and like there was a lot of like second guessing me, and so to move that conversation like I would sort of do a quick little like credentials drop. Like they would say like, "Oh, what's your background?" And I would say something like, "Well, like I went to undergrad at Columbia, and since then I've worked at Microsoft and Google and Foursquare, and I've been really blessed to be on the Forbes 30 under 30 list, and it's been a really awesome ride."
And then they're like,
And then like
oh,
now
I
we can
did
just
that same.
now we don't have to deal with any of it. Like let's
Right.
move on now. Just
Yeah.
wrap that up.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, I love that. I think that Bryn really wanted me to do a lot more of that on the show, and I was like, I don't need to prove to you who I am. But in your case, I agree that you need to do that.
Well, I think I don't do it anymore. I used to do it, and when I was early in my career, I think it was like more helpful. And now I have the opposite approach. I'm just like not going to tell you anything,
Right.
really, and
Right.
just like we're
Right.
going to move on. And that's probably the real confident approach that Bryn didn't understand or didn't want you to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Last question. Question 21. What is your favorite? I worked my ass off in my career, so now I'm treating myself splurge.
I get a healthy amount of massages and facials at least twice a month. Which maybe that doesn't seem healthy to people, but that's my splurge.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be healthy to anybody but
Touch
you.
my face, please. Just touch it. I am
Look at
saving.
it.
I am saving up for this diamond necklace that I can't bring myself to spend the money on, but that'll be my splurge when I do it.
Okay, girl. All right, we'll be rooting you on when we see.
You'll start to notice. You'll be like, "Oh, she got it for herself." I keep changing that. I need to make this before I can buy it. It's not even that much money, but whatever. It's my own
But the
personal.
benchmark keeps moving.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. I do that so many times with weird stuff. With like really random like, oh, like I need new underwear, but like it's gonna be expensive. And like,
Right.
girl, if you don't go do that right now, it makes no sense. but I definitely still do it. I have like a whole hypnotherapist to help me like with my mindset with money, because otherwise I'll do like little weird stuff or keep
Yeah.
moving the benchmark. So we all are there with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us. This was really fun. And I think through hearing these questions, people will really get a sense of you and your journey and like your really lovely personality. So thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.